also, if you want a more recent example, something that you could observe right now, look what's happening in Iraq. Because of all, and I'm sure the people, you know, in the leftist camps who watch my videos, you know about this already. The depleted uranium shells that are all over the place, they've been causing a lot of factors in babies that are being born with a whole lot of defects. Some horrific looking defects if you've seen some of the pictures. This is due to environmental factors. Now, the few kids that make it through this, who seem to be fine, are still going to be carrying some of the remnants of this. And this is new information. Whatever they're going to be developing from that is going to be basically new information. And for anyone who's going to be saying that, no, that's not new information, that's just a reorganization of cells. Depleted uranium is not a natural occurring substance. This stuff happens because of human interaction. We make this stuff. So that's new information right there. So when you make something new and then introduce it into nature, and nature reacts to it in a different way, that's new data and new information. The random mutations that result from that is new information. And that is change in another generation. And the generation that survives that and is able to pass on those genes that resulted from this onto its children is a form of evolution. All evolution is change from one generation to the next. People are so hung up on the whole ape into man thing. They just always expect that a gorilla in the woods is going to squat out a human being. It doesn't work that way. For one thing, and that's another thing, this man from ape shit has got to stop, because evolution has never said that mankind descended from apes. They said that apes and man have a common ancestor. There's a difference. A big freaking difference. The next moron that comes to me in my face with, we didn't come from no apes. Yeah, you're dead right, but it looks like you probably did. Because you don't know science and you're trying to argue it with me. I will admit, I'm no scientist.
Robin Williams. Robin Williams is evidence that we came from apes. That's a hairy, hairy man.
Well, that came from apes that had the common ancestor.
Oh, yeah.
We're down to like a half an hour now, so I want to talk more about two things. Since we've been talking about evolution and we've been describing what it is and what the scientific method is and how most people who discuss it, even if they're for evolution, don't really know what it is, hopefully this will give you guys a hint. But now we need to talk about the so-called counter to it. Creationism. I've said this, I don't think I've said it in a video, but I've said this before. So I'm going to say it now if I haven't put it in the video. Creationism does not count as a scientific theory. It can't possibly count as a scientific theory because it hasn't gone through the right amount of tests or rigor yet. It can't count as an hypothesis, or is very loosely counted as that, because the problem with creationism stems with the fact that it's based on a belief. It is not based on scientific rigor. People might fool you, and a few Christian scientists might fool you into saying, oh, we've looked at the world and it seems that everything has a pattern, so we think that God did it. That's not a scientific hypothesis. It goes a bit different than that. First of all, if you're going to be working off a scientific hypothesis, you're going to develop that, you can't go with emotional feelings, and you definitely can't go with a belief. Second thing is, just like he said, you're not supposed to try to prove it, you're supposed to try to disprove it. And sadly enough, there's a hell of a lot of disproving for something like this. There is no academic standard, no type of scientific test, no real process whatsoever to actually prove creationism. There's a lot of interesting talk about it, I'll admit. There are a few scientists who are like, it sounds like a good idea, maybe we can find something about it. Maybe we can find a way to form a way to put it into the laboratories. But they haven't been able to do that yet because it's based off of a religious belief. This is Christianity, well, radical Christianity's last gasp at trying to survive in an increasingly rational world. That's all it is. Creationists are basically walking around. If you want further proof that creationism isn't something that any sane individual should be backing up, it's the fact that people supporting this are trying to put out museums. Actually, they have already put out museums where they're trying to teach the kids that human beings at one time were walking alongside dinosaurs, okay? Now, really, at that point, that's when you should step back. If you've been supporting creationism, That's the point where you should step back and go, wait a second. Because these people are now basically trying to steal a line from the comedian Louis Black. These guys are now basically trying to convince us that the Flintstones was a real way of life. It's not, okay? I don't even know where to begin. And the sad part is, since I didn't take a major in science, I just simply read on this stuff, and I'm using common sense to work with what I do remember from my high school science and my grade school science. It doesn't add up. It doesn't work. And I just know, I know from a fact, just simply from dealing with people in philosophical debates, that when you are arguing facts, you're on solid ground. And if you're arguing facts that later on you realize aren't facts, then you just simply back off and go, I'm wrong. Once you're dealing with belief, the argument goes on endlessly because the guy who's believing in crap has nothing to base it up. You see, that's the thing. People keep trying to say that people who believe in evolution have nothing to base their stuff on, but they do. That's why they're so sure about it. But they're also willing to change their mind and go with new data. They're constantly looking for new data. They don't really care too much about the meaning of it all. They're just like, 2 + 2 = 4. They put no emotional attachment to it. Someone with a belief, however, is going to try to justify 2 + 2 = 4 and bring it far past what it was supposed to be, or try to explain the holy significance or why we should submit to it. Science doesn't care. It just simply states what it is. There's no emotional backing to it. Creationism, on the other hand, religious belief, on the other hand, and all this other stuff, people desperately trying to disprove evolution because it conflicts with what they want the world to be like, have an emotional stock in it. So they're never going to be able to take it in a rational way. And that's why anything that they say is going to be suspect, because they're not dealing with it with a cold calculating logical mind, where they won't be swayed or biased towards something.